We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
This is VSiN PrimeTime. Live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas on VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is a great night in sports, to tell you the truth. You got the NBA playoffs, hockey playoffs, full baseball card. Will Hill, Matt Youmans here on VSiN Primetime, and Jeff Sherman here to help us break it down. Westgate Superbook joins us now on the Progressive guest line. Jeff, right now in progress, headed to the fourth quarter in Indianapolis. The Pacers, who were down 15, have now tied the game at 75 going to the fourth quarter. Pacers 4.5-point favorites live. And Pistons 15, Knicks 14, early going here. What was betting like action on these two early games in the NBA playoffs tonight?
Well, we had Pacers money line support and teasers. The Sharps were on Milwaukee a bit here, and we've seen a lot of in-play on this when the Pacers, right at the start of the second quarter, were down 20. And so there was some Pacer involvement there. And, these large leads disintegrating quickly we've seen in the NBA. So people were back in the Pacers, and the Pacers at halftime, too. The Knicks game got a lot of two-way at 5.5, so we really didn't budge too much there. A little bit more support on the over.
Jeff, when you look at the best series so far of the first round, it's been Clippers-Nuggets. I thought the Clippers were in good shape to put them away on Saturday going into the game. That wasn't the case, but who do you like in Game 5? Who do you like going forward in this series?
I was on the Clippers before the series. I've been on them in each game. I'm on them again tonight. I was a little shocked that places opened the Nuggets favored in this game after what we've seen from the previous game, so I played the Clippers +1. Didn't quite get the 1.5 available, but
We lost Jeff? All right, we'll try to get him back on. I thought maybe something was wrong with my audio on this end. We'll call Jeff and resume talking about the NBA playoffs. Jeff Sherman always gets the best number on the game he bets. He's got Clippers +1 tonight. That's part of working behind the sports book. You see and you have access to all these openers around the globe, and Sherman never fails. Clippers +1 right now at the Superbook. Clippers are 2-point favorites. We have Jeff back. Jeff, are you there? Jeff.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Continue talking about the Clippers, who dropped that game in dramatic fashion Saturday in L.A., and what you expect to see Clippers-Nuggets tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they dug themselves out a 20-point fourth-quarter hole and had a chance there, and they just put themselves in that position. But you can just tell throughout the series that they're just overall the better team, more complete team. And it's, Jokic carrying the Nuggets, like he has all season. And I still expect the Clippers to come out of this series. I like them tonight, and I like them in their next game, too. I think they'll handle business in these upcoming games.
How about Celtics laying 11.5 to the Magic? Magic have been feisty in the series. Game 4 was close. Game 1, Orlando led at halftime. It just seems like Boston has too much, despite the fact that Boston has some injuries here. Any feel for this game, either side or total?
Not myself, but, we opened this one 12.5, and we've seen Sharp and Public playing Orlando, and we're down to 11. The market's pretty much 11.5. We're sitting at Boston -11 right now, so we're a little bit heavy to the Orlando side, and it's a margin there where, obviously the public thinks that Boston will win, including them in their money line parlays. But, with the points, they're taking the margin per error with the points.
All right, let's move on to the Wednesday schedule. Jeff Sherman, VP at the Westgate Superbook, with us now. Jeff, the Rockets last night had a chance to get Game 4 in San Francisco, and they blew it. Rockets go home, 4-point favorites, total 203.5. Golden State at Houston, Game 5. What do you expect? How's that going to be bet, and what do you like, if anything, there?
Yeah, it's already been bet up, and I think we're going to see this a repeat of Game 2 when Houston was in a must-win at home, and they really handled their business, and they've really been in every game, had a chance to win every game here. And I laid 4 in this one. It's pretty much 4.5 everywhere. And I think we're going to see a repeat of Game 2, where Houston will really take care of business in this one, send it to Golden State for what can be a tightly contested match there.
The Lakers, they are looking to avoid elimination. They're down 3-1. JJ Redick, obviously controversial decision to play all of his starters the entire second half. Is this the situation where you expect them to bounce back, get the benefit of the whistle here, or do you think Minnesota closes them out?
No, I think the Lakers will bounce back. They were in the same type of spot in their Game 2, and they showed up there and had a large lead early in the game and held that around a double-digit lead. And I think that they'll go ahead and you'll see a similar type of defensive effort from them here, and it really make it tough on the Timberwolves. And then I think it'll go back to Minnesota, where Minnesota will end up taking care of business in the next game.
Jeff, you're a Lakers fan. I know you watch this team closely. What do you think the problems have been? I was talking about this last night. LeBron scoreless in the fourth quarter in Game 4. Made 3 blunders in the final minute to help the Lakers blow that game. And also Luka Doncic. I know fans love him and his offensive wizardry, but, man, that guy is a disaster on the defensive end of the floor. And the Lakers got more problems than that. What do you see?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a lot of what you just said there, and, plus the time that they've had a couple months to play together. But, it was stunning to see J.J. Redick's decision to keep the 5 players in for the entire second half, and you can see him run out of gas, even though he says that they didn't. But some of it from their play, I definitely wouldn't have done that. You could have given those guys just a couple-minute breathers right around the timeout periods and gotten them some extra rest there. There's some interchangeable parts, but, he felt like doing something outside the box, and, I thought it hurt him there. But it's more towards the future with Luka, and they're going to have the ability to put pieces around him, and you're starting to see LeBron finally show some aging at this point and not finish, like you said, 0 points in the fourth quarter. That's not the LeBron James that we've seen even over the past couple of years.
All right, let's go to hockey. Jeff Sherman, Westgate Superbook with us. Follow him at Golf Odds. Jeff, Will Hill just pointed out the New Jersey Devils were big dogs tonight. Carolina went off at the Superbook minus 260. And New Jersey has a 3-0 lead on the Hurricanes right now in the first period. 8 minutes to go in the first period, it looks like, and scoreless at the end of the first in Ottawa, Toronto. But really want to talk about 2 big Game 5s tonight. The first in Vegas, Minnesota and the Vegas Golden Knights. And the Knights, big favorites tonight, Jeff, even though their goaltender, Aiden Hill, has not been that sharp in this series.
Yeah, 230 favorite they are with the Wild plus 200. And if you through the first 4 games, I mean, it's really been a tight series. And, I know there's power ratings and such, but it's an awfully large favorite for the Knights based on the play we've seen in the first 4 games. But, it's based on what we expect at the betting window, and especially in this town, the public is still supporting the Knights. So we're lopsided, especially on the puck line. The Knights end up winning by 2 goals. That's where our liability will lie.
Jeff, how do you look at puck lines in the playoffs? Because you get empty net goal situations a lot at the end of games. Do you play many puck lines?
Oh, I don't get involved. I don't play much hockey at all unless I can find some totals and some spots that I look to bet, under a 5.5 on a low-scoring affair. But I really don't get too involved in hockey.
All right, Vegas minus 230, total of 5.5 shaded over, minus 130. That's one of 2 Game 5s tonight on the West Coast.
Kings and Oilers, Kings minus 115. Jeff, total 6.5. How do you feel for this one?
Yeah, I mean, we're getting a lot of play on Edmonton here, thinking people are going to take that overtime win and follow it through here because the Kings have looked shaky in the later stages of their games throughout this series. And, we were as high as $1.40 on the Kings this morning, now minus 110. So we can't stop the avalanche of money on the Oilers side of this one.
What's the wagering handle like on the NBA playoffs compared to the NHL? And I know in hockey you're going to draw a little bit more on the Vegas Golden Knights games, right?
Yeah, we'll get more on the Knights games, but overall we'll get much more on the NBA games, and especially you get the high-profile ones like the Lakers and Timberwolves. That whole series has been leading the way and dominating the handle in each game.
Hey, by the way, what'd you make of the Miami Heat getting their heads caved in by the Cavs and just 2 humiliating losses to wrap up that series in Miami? Did it say more about the Heat just being that bad and quitting, or do you think the Cavs are that legit?
Oh, I think it's more about the Heat. It's surprising to me because usually when a team gets embarrassed, they come back the next game and have a good effort, and that didn't happen. That's one of the rare times we've seen that. But the way that the Heat went there, they would have been better off just missing the playoffs, because now they're going to lose their draft pick for getting into the playoffs. So it cost themselves in more ways than one.
And lost Jimmy Butler, who's still alive with the Warriors. All right, update in the NBA right now. Pacers on top of the Bucks, 87-82. Pacers trying to close out this series. Live line is 6.5 on Indiana. And Knicks lead the Pistons 23-22. Jeff, let's talk golf here to wrap it up in the final couple minutes. Scottie Scheffler back in action, seeking his first win of 2025. This is not one of the high-profile events here. The Byron Nelson has got the name, but it doesn't have the field this week.
Yes, Scheffler leads away. We opened him at 3-1 and have taken a lot of support on him, actually, because of the weakened field and not much competition at the top for him this week. So he's down to plus 275. Second choice, Jordan Spieth at 18-1. And, this is the course where he broke through in the start of his career, did well there. So he's been committed to this pretty much every year. So when you have Jordan Spieth as a second choice, it's really not that great because, he hasn't been going too well lately himself. So really watered down. And, if Scheffler can improve on the putting aspect, because we've seen him a little shaky on that, then he should be right near the top threatening this week.
I was going to say, is there anybody – I know you said you're taking action on Scheffler at the Westgate. He was 3-1, now plus 275. DraftKings got plus 280. It's not often you see that big a disparity from the favorite to the second choice at 18-1. Any long shot that you would consider this week? Have you handicapped the field yet?
Yeah, I haven't done anything yet. And with what you said, I might look down into the 60 to 80-1 range this week, just taking a shot because the guys at the top I don't trust, especially at their odds. But if I do anything, I'm going to get involved tomorrow, look into it a little bit more. But right now, it could be looking ahead towards the next few weeks where we got the Truist, which is a signature event, and then the PGA Championship on the horizon.
Looking forward to that. Follow Jeff Sherman at Golf Odds. Jeff, thanks for jumping on again tonight.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right,
thanks,
Will
Jeff.
Hill, the Pacers trying to close out the Bucks. We will update that when we come back here on VSiN PrimeTime. If you thought the Milwaukee Bucks were just going to roll over and die, that's not the case. It was 87-82 Pacers, now tied at 87. Bucks trying to stay alive tonight. The live line, Pacers minus 2.5, total of 208.5 at DraftKings. Will, every time, for all those people who bet the Pacers out there, and Jeff Sherman said had a lot of Pacers play, parlays, laying the points, money lines, all those Pacers bettors out there are going to have to sweat this out. Just when you think the Pacers gain control of the game and might pull away, the Bucks come right back.
Yeah, I give them credit. They've hung around and to be up big early, blow the lead, and then the building's going crazy. Pacers are up 5. Feels like this is the knockout punch. Well, they've avoided the knockout punch, at least for now. As like you said, they've tied it, and now they get a stop and look to come the other way to take the lead. So good response from Milwaukee. I don't really consider them a threat to, win 3 in a row, win this one, then win again in 6, and then win in 7 again. But, you just take it one at a time. You do still have Giannis. So a good effort, a good fight here from the undermanned Milwaukee Bucks.
Don't forget about the VSiN Killer Sports NBA handicapping contest here. You can follow it at vsin.com. All the plays are up on the website. I think posted at least an hour before the game. Doug Kazarian went into tonight with the lead. Doug, a professional handicapper in Vegas, former ESPN anchor. He was on the show with us last night. Doug was 14-3 going into tonight. He had won 10 in a row after he dropped his first game. He looks like he might drop one tonight. He's got the Pacers laying the points, and it's not looking good right now. The Bucks have taken the lead, 89-87 with 7 minutes to go. But in the NBA, things can change quickly, so you're never out of it. Knicks on top of the Pistons, 27-22. Knicks now 7.5-point favorites live, and a total of 198.5. Doug was on top of the standings in that Killer Sports contest going into today, and Steve Fezzik was number 2. Fezzik got off to a hot start, but hanging on in second place. 20 plays from each handicapper in the first round of that contest. And we're getting close to the end of the first round. I noticed last night when I looked at the standings, Aaron Renning, a professional bettor out of Vegas, had only 10 plays, and you need 20 in the first round. You better get on it, ER, because this first round's about to come to an end. There's not many games left, but there's a big game tonight, and it's Clippers at Nuggets, and that's our VSiN Primetime game of the night. We'll talk about it a little bit more later. But Clips holding steady here. The market not really moving in the last 24 hours or so. Clippers 2-point favorites, total of 209. About to get underway in Boston. I think we're 15 minutes away from tip. Magic, Celtics, with Boston up 3-1. Celtics have a closeout opportunity tonight, Will. 11.5 is the number. 199.5 is the total. Now, you mentioned this with, I believe, Jeff Sherman. We talked about this. The Magic have been feisty. They've actually pushed the Celtics in this series, I think, more than some people thought. I said I thought Celtics in 5 is going to be the result before it started. Celtics have a tendency to fall asleep at the wheel when they're big favorites and drop a game. So I did not think they were going to sweep. This is their chance tonight to win this in 5. Will, do you think the Celtics close it out tonight, but the Magic compete and don't make it easy for them?
I do, and I think if I had to bet it, if I had to take it or lay it, I think I would take it. Yeah. I'm just worried that he's still a younger team that can't really shoot, walking into a Boston environment where they smell blood. That's a hostile crowd. You just worry they get run out of the building. But I think 11.5 is a lot of points. Big picture though, Boston for the first round of the playoffs, 4 or 5 games in, for a team that has obviously title aspirations, wants to repeat. They're banged up. Drew Holiday banged up. Jaylen Brown banged up. Tatum missed a game the other night. These bumps and bruises would concern me going forward. If you have Celtics futures tickets to win the East, win the whole thing, if you're just going to pencil them in, hey, it's going to be Celtics versus Thunder in June, I'd be careful. The Cavs look really good, and the Celtics are really banged up. And these are things that, you want to be banged up during the regular season where you can rest these bumps and bruises. When you're already dealing with injuries and you're going to play the Knicks probably in the next round, they're probably going to win. They'll probably be favored. They will be favored, but that's not going to be an easy series. And it's a concerning sign for me. So I have a Thunder Celtics exact finals matchup, like 5-1 from middle of the season, one of the few futures I played. I'm concerned big picture with the Celtics because of all the injuries. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, especially when you see the Cavs playing as well as they are. Celtics being banged up, definitely being a concern going into that series. And another thing about the Celtics, they're such a volatile team in my mind because they shoot so many threes. And you start to go cold from 3, and you can lose anybody. And Celtics dropped a game in this series like I thought they would. But the Magic, they got some fundamental problems too. Don't shoot the 3 well. And aside from Paolo Banchero, they don't have a lot of scoring options they can go to when you need a bucket down the stretch. That's the thing in the playoffs. You got to have that go-to guy you can go to. Right. When you have to have that bucket, the Rockets didn't really have that last night. Sengun's okay, but he's not the typical go-to guy in the NBA. Jalen Green's got to be that guy for the Rockets, and he disappeared. Celtics have it. Banchero's the guy for the Magic. He just they need to build, I think, a better supporting cast around him. I'm with you. I think it would be take the points or pass with the Magic tonight. I passed on 11.5. Who knows? When we were talking about this during the show tonight, I bet you live betting you're going to be able to get a better number than 11.5 on the Magic too. If the Celtics get off to a good start, who knows, you might be able to grab Magic plus 15.5. So that's one thing about the NBA. If I miss a pregame bet, I don't sweat it too much because you still got live opportunities, and a lot of times you get a better number that way. Quick update here from Indiana at a commercial break. 91-89. The Freak and the Bucks lead the Pacers by 2 with 5.5 minutes to go. Knicks on top of the Pistons, 27-25, and 9 minutes to go in the second quarter. All right, let's talk about the VSiN.com website and some of the great stuff you can get up there. If you want to know where the money is really going on these games, unlike other sources, our betting splits come straight from Circa and DraftKings Sportsbook, giving you insight into where the sharp action is landing. Circa is known for taking big bets from pro players, while the DraftKings Sportsbook provides a broader market perspective from coast to coast. That means you're getting the real action, not just public money, but the kind of wagers that move the lines. See the percentage of bets versus the percentage of handle on every game across every major sport, helping make you a smarter, more informed bettor. Get VSiN's summer special right now. It's only $59. You get it all the way through August 1st at vsin.com/subscribe, vsin.com/subscribe. And as part of that, you get Wes Reynolds golf columns. I'm sure Wes has got one up on the website right now. We just talked a little bit about the Byron Nelson in Texas this week. And Wes has been a hot golf handicapper, and his golf columns typically go up on vsin.com every Tuesday. If you're a VSiN Pro, you get it first. vsin.com/subscribe. How about the Bucks? a three from the Bucks, and they go up 94-89, up 5 with 5 minutes to go. Will, let's get an update from Baltimore. The Yankees have dropped a dozen on the Orioles.
But that is not the story in Baltimore. We are 12 outs away from a Carlos Rodon perfect game.
Mm-hmm.
He is perfect through 5. We checked last. It was after 3 or 4. He said it's early. Well, when you're perfect through 5, it's no longer early. So 15 up, 15 down for Rodon as he is 12 outs away. I feel like we've seen a rash of no-hitters the last 3-4 years in baseball. It almost became commonplace for a while with all these guys throwing 100 miles an hour. We don't see very many perfect games. Top of my head, Domingo Germán for the Yankees 2-3 years ago maybe was perhaps the last one. So Rodon, look, still a long way to go, but within striking distance here, at least something to monitor here as it's 12-0 Yanks.
Is it bottom of the? Are they through the bottom of the 6th or not? My box score is showing Rodon through 5 with a perfect game.
Yeah, so 15 up, 15 down. He's got 12 outs to go, right? 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. Yeah, he's 12 outs away.
Yeah. 5 innings, 6 strikeouts, 64 pitches. I would say that, 64 pitches. Booney can let him go. He doesn't come out there, and he doesn't have to give him the hook, right? Yeah. If he's got a chance to get the perfect game, his pitch count's not up there. It's about 11 pitches, 12 pitches per inning. That's actually very efficient. I think Rodon's going to have a shot to get it. Anyway, perfect through 5. Still a long way to go. Kyle Gibson far from perfect tonight. In fact, he was pathetic. In the first inning, Gibson allowed homers to 4 of the first 5 Yankees hitters he faced. And Yankees now up 12-0. Bottom of the 6th. Rodon trotting out there for the Yankees right now. All right, Will, what else in baseball has got your attention?
Mets lead the Diamondbacks 8-0 in the 5th inning. So those bats have gotten going after they scored, 19 runs Monday in Washington? They have continued to swing hot bats. So 8-0 in the 5th. Eduardo Rodriguez was pounded in that game. So the Mets with a comfortable lead. Boston leading Toronto 7-2. The White Sox lead the Brewers 2-1. Philly 3-1 over Washington. That was a good pitching matchup. Gore against Wheeler. And then the Cubs 4-0. Imanaga going against Andrew Heaney, who's been really good with the Cubs. Cubs might be legit. I have a feeling. I know people like the Reds, and I was on the Reds too. Cubs might be a team that runs away with that division.
Look at the Cubs' offensive numbers. Very impressive up to this point, what the Cubs are doing. We had Steve Phillips, former Mets general manager, on the show with us last night. The Mets, 20-9 going into tonight. They're going to be 21-9 because, like you said, they're up 8-0 over the D-backs at Citi Field. And we will take a quick break. We've got a lot more baseball to talk about. But up next, Matt Grill of DraftKings. We're going to talk some NFL draft, golf, and more with Grill. Stay tuned here to VSiN Primetime. Back in a couple minutes as the Pacers retake the lead.
This is VSiN Primetime on VSiN, the sports betting network.
All right, welcome back. We've going down the stretch here in Indiana. We got a great game. Bucks 101-97 over the Pacers. Bucks pull out the 4-point lead, and they are now favored on the live line at DraftKings. Bucks minus 2.5, total of 207.5, and you got 120 to go in the game. The Pacers retook the lead right before the break. Bucks got it back. So if you thought the Bucks were going to roll over and die tonight, not the case. 101-97. Pistons have also taken a 36-33 lead on the Knicks 5 minutes ago before halftime. All right, let's go out to the Progressive guest line and welcome in our regular guest here on Tuesdays, Matt Grill, oddsmaker at DraftKings. Grill, first of all, I want to hit you up on the NFL draft. Johnny Avello was on the show with us last night. He said positive results for DraftKings on the draft. A lot of bookmakers hate this event, but it was positive for DraftKings, right?
You're exactly right. Johnny was right on point. We actually had a good draft. I think we have 2 years in a row now. This one was the most handled we've ever done the draft, and our best results on the draft. And maybe we're kind of getting our footing here after having this for about 7 or 8 years now. Legal in Nevada and these other states. So we're able to put up all these additional markets. And here's the thing. A lot of things in the draft are very predictable. You can kind of figure some stuff out, but the second a big trade happens or, something else goes down, there's kind of an unexpected pick, that just kind of starts the domino effect a lot of the time where things just kind of tend to go unexpectedly, which is usually in our favor. So, the draft, though, it's a lot of fun. It's just creating momentum every year. Everyone loves it. People, how many were out there at Green Bay and Lambeau, just, 50, 60,000 plus. So all the diehards, and it just gets the excitement going. NFL's been gone about 2 months now, and people want to start thinking about it again. The draft's a great way to start that.
Matt Grill of DraftKings with us. Follow at DK Sportsbook on Twitter. Grill, let's talk about the draft and the quarterbacks. And start with Cam Ward going number 1 overall. What your assessment of him? Jackson Dart, the number 25 pick. Giants traded up for the Ole Miss quarterback. And then the quarterbacks that came off the board after that. You're a guy who follows college football and handicaps it closely. Quinn Ewers of Texas slipped all the way to the 7th round. Can you kind of give me your evaluation of what you saw in the quarterbacks in the draft from Cam Ward all the way down to Quinn Ewers?
Yeah, Matt, Cam going number 1, obviously that was no surprise. He was such a heavy favorite. And I do think he was the best QB in this draft class. Next year's draft class, we'll get into in a second. Going to be a lot more talented, a lot deeper, I think. And that's why you see a guy like Jackson Dart. He was a second pick in the mid-20s. A little surprising that the second QB kind of dropped to that far. But again, I don't think that the top end quality of quarterbacks this year was really there. And Shedeur going in that 5th round. The Browns. Even though it was kind of a weird pick after they'd taken Dylan Gabriel, he's worth a shot down at that number. He's not been playing for cheap, and he's got the top end talent if he keeps his head on straight to be able to help him out and do something. So do like that pick there. We're kind of disappointed the Raiders didn't pick him up. Many chances to do so. Surprised that the Steelers didn't as well. They're kind of going through the Aaron saga. Will he or won't he? And all the way down to the 7th round. You mentioned Quinn Ewers, and yeah, again, I think that somebody could maybe help you out as a 7th round pick, very low risk, but he's got to be kicking himself right now because he probably left $4 or $5 million on the table from NIL to get transfer out of Texas and land up in like a Tennessee or somewhere like that. Now he's making the $800,000 as a rookie, so he's going to be second guessing himself for sure.
No doubt about it. Big mistake by Quinn Ewers. If he stayed in college football, he would have made at least $4 million. Some were saying 5 or more. As a top quarterback in the transfer portal, I know there was one Big Ten program rumored to offer him somewhere around 4 to 5, but he goes pro and he goes all the way to the 7th round to the Dolphins. He slipped out far. A little bit surprised. I'm not a big Quinn Ewers fan, but I'm surprised he slipped all the way to the 7th round. A lot to talk about with the quarterbacks there. Will Hill and I are going to hit this a little bit more in the next segment, talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers who drafted Will Howard from Ohio State. So, Matt, like I said, you're a guy who's all over the college football scene, and you got the board up at DraftKings, number 1 pick in the 2026 draft. I feel like Arch Manning is a favorite kind of by default. We haven't seen a lot of Arch so far, and I want to ask you, I've heard rumors from reliable sources that the Manning family actually wants Arch. The Manning family wants Arch to stay for 2 years at Texas, starting quarterback for 2 years, and not just bolt after next year. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, Arch he's going to be the top pick next year. You would think. I'll tell you what, going back to last year, we opened up Shedeur as the favorite to go number 1 pick overall, and granted we were dead wrong, and a lot of the other books were too. But it's just the thing where you're making a complete guess a year out. So if you're someone who follows the draft and does well with it as a bettor, it's someone that right away when we put these odds up a year out, you can probably get an edge. And that's something we're kind of willing to take some early money on these things and kind of see where we're at. But, Arch he's going to obviously be up there with the name recognition. He's got some wheels on him. He's very mobile. Kind of interested to see what Sark can do with him at Texas here. He's kind of a quarterback whisperer.
I guess we lost Matt Grill. Is that right? Will, I was talking about this. We discussed it briefly last night. I think there's a chance Arch Manning's going to stay 2 more years at Texas and not be in the 2026 draft. And you talked about it too. We've seen Archie Manning pull this before, where he did not want Eli to go to the Chargers.
Yeah, and it's a multifaceted handicap. It's a 2-to-1 shot, but first of all, he has to come out. That's the first part. And then once he comes out and declares for the draft, he has to be the first pick. So it's not like if he stays in school, the books are going to be nice and give you your money back. If you're making this bet, first of all, you're tying up your money for 365 days for a 2-to-1 shot, and then if he goes back to school, you're losing. So that's an interesting twist to that bet, of course.
I think there is a chance we'll see Arch stay in Austin 2 more seasons. He might not be in the 2026 draft. Anyway, the Freak missed the last shot as time expired. Bucks and Pacers are going to go to overtime, tied at 103. Bad news if you bet that game under the total. Matt Grohl of DraftKings rejoins us now, and I want to hit you up, Grohl, on Game 5 tonight in Vegas. I know you're a hockey fan when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights. Big favorites tonight are the Knights in a pivotal Game 5 against the Minnesota Wild. What do you expect?
Yeah, man, I got to be frank here. Even as a huge Knights fan, I just have not.
Did we lose him again? Okay. Looks like we got a bad connection with Matt Grohl. Those Game 5s are big, Will, in series like this. It's obvious. Sound like Troy Aikman saying this is a big play or a big game, but when a series is tied at 2 and it's Game 5, if you don't win Game 5 at home and you got to go on the road down 3-2, your back's against the wall and you're in a lot of trouble. That's a game that obviously a lot of people in Vegas are focused on tonight, Game 5, which is about an hour away at T-Mobile Arena. Will, did you happen to catch the end of regulation there? The Bucks had the last shot. They blew the lead, and the Freak had a baseline jumper, a decent look, not a great look, and he missed it.
Yeah, and the Bucks led by 4 with 39 seconds left. Pacers got a quick 2, left themselves enough time where, all right, we don't have to foul. We can play defense. They did play defense. They get a stop. They got a relatively easy layup for being up 2. Man, it was pretty much Olay to the basket for looked like Halliburton that got the bucket to lay it in. And then we see it all the time, college basketball, the NBA. Anytime a team, it's a tie game and a team can settle for the last shot, they usually are very tentative. They don't want a turnover. They don't want an offensive foul. And they settle with some, and settle is the operative word, with some fadeaway, bad look. And that was not a great look. I know you're worried about an offensive foul or something, but you got Giannis, who's so big, so strong, his ability to get to the basket. Let him put his head down and go to the basket and make the ref blow his whistle. Maybe you think you're not going to get a call there or whatever, and you don't want to leave time the other end, but that was not a great look there for the Bucks. You would think, now you never know, but you would think with the game flow, the chances Milwaukee's had to win this, Indy rallying late, you would think Indy's in good shape to probably pull away and win this game in overtime, but I thought that at 87-82 when Indy led.
Yeah, as you say that, DraftKings has put up Pacers minus 2.5 going to overtime. It tied 103. I agree with that. Pacers got to be, I would say, 2.5 or 3-point favorites going to OT. The money line on the Pacers minus 195. If you like the home favorite to win this in OT, the Bucks had their shot. I think they just blew it. The momentum's with the Pacers. I agree. I hated that last shot by the Freak. You've got all that time. You dribble down to the baseline and shoot a fadeaway while you're double teamed. It was not a good look at all, and not that close to making it. So the Bucks really had their chance there, and they blew it. I would expect the Pacers to win in OT. We'll see how it goes. Anyway. Pistons also lead the Knicks 47-45, and we're about 1 minute to go before the half at the Garden. Will, anything in baseball jumping out here to you before we take a quick break?
I flipped off it. I know Rodon walked a guy, so he lost his perfect game. I'm not sure if he still has the no-hitter.
He does not have the no-hitter. The Orioles have a run across right now, 12-1 Yankees. There we go. All right, underway in Indiana in the overtime, tied at 103 between the Bucks and the Pacers. And in baseball, Yankees 12-1 over the Orioles, Cubs 4-0 over the Pirates. I've got a really interesting fact or stat I'm going to give you about the Chicago Cubs and their hot start here later in the show. Phillies on top of the Nationals 3-2. Red Sox up on the Braves 7-2, and the Mets lead the D-backs 8-1. All right, quick break here on VSiN PrimeTime. Will and I are going to talk NFL draft, quarterbacks, and the Pittsburgh Steelers when we come back. Pacers open the overtime with a 3, and the Bucks have answered with 3 in a row. How about that? 112-106 Milwaukee over Indiana. If you bet the Pacers in the overtime like we were talking about, it's bad news. Pacers do counter with a 3 right now, though. So it's 112-109. As I'm speaking, the Pacers cut it to 112-111. How about that, Will? It was 112-106 when we were watching the game during the commercial, and the Pacers score 5 in a row. Just like that. It's 5 in a row in about 30 seconds to cut it to 1. The Bucks have blown some leads here. At the end of regulation, now here in overtime, but they do answer with a 3 to go up 115-111 now with 104 to go. I'll tell you what, the Bucks have been resilient. Every time you think the Pacers come back and they're going to take control of the game, the Bucks have an answer.
Yeah, this game should add another 4 or 5 years to Doc Rivers' coaching career. Get him another contract or 2.
You get an extension after this. 117-111. How about that? The Pacers had it down to 1, and the Bucks scored 5 in a row to go up by 6 with 48 seconds left. All right, enough of that. Let's talk NFL draft. By the way, we're at halftime in New York. Knicks lead the Pistons 50-49. Knicks 4.5-point favorites for the game, total of 202.5. It looks like that game's going to go to the wire at the Garden. Will, you and I talked a lot last night about the NFL draft, recapping it. It was a better result for the sports books this year than in recent years. And Shedeur Sanders and his slide was I think the main headline to come out of the whole thing. At one point, his draft position prop was 3.5. It moved to 8.5, and then moved to 21.5, and then he moved all the way to the 5th round where he's picked by the Browns at number 144. So Mel Kiper, I thought his head was going to explode on Thursday or Friday as Shedeur continued to slide down the draft board because Kiper had Sanders as his number 5 overall player in the draft, and he slips to the 5th round. That's embarrassing for Kiper, who misread the whole situation. He went on a rant on ESPN. It was frankly, it was embarrassing for the network and an embarrassment to him. But let's go ahead and replay a little part of it that we showed you last night.
The NFL has been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterback. Clueless. They have no idea what they're doing in terms of evaluating quarterback. That's proof. There's proof of that.
How many
times say we know exactly what we're talking about with quarterback? They don't.
Okay, he knows exactly what he's talking about with quarterbacks, Will. This is a guy who hyped up Jimmy Clausen and said if he wasn't a successful NFL quarterback, he'd retire. He's done. Well, Jimmy Clausen stunk. Well, Mel Kiper did not retire. Jamarcus Russell hyped him up as a generational talent. Russell was a gigantic bust, okay? How about Patrick Mahomes? The year Mahomes came out, Kiper had him ranked as the 5th best quarterback in the class behind guys like Deshaun Kaiser and Luke Falk. So he knows exactly what he's talking about with quarterbacks. The NFL doesn't. What do you make of the whole situation with Kiper and the slide by Shedeur Sanders all the way to the 5th round?
Yeah, you used the correct word. I think it was embarrassing. It was somebody who just looked angry that they were so out of touch with we always talk about the betting market. The draft is the market. The GMs, in terms of picking these players, that is the market, and it's Kiper's job to project the market. So he was just so far off. He's got talking about, they were talking about when Cam Ward got picked, they announced, Schefter says, oh, Cam Ward's going to be the first pick, as we all knew. 10 seconds later, they're showing Shedeur Sanders tape saying, oh, it should have been Sanders going first. 144 picks later, he finally gets picked. It's just, it was ridiculous coverage. Look, if Kiper was more humble about it, it would have been palatable. He could say, you know what? I thought Sanders would go high. I understand why he went lower, but let's remember the NFL doesn't always get these guys right. Brady went in the 6th round. Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant. I've had my share of whiffs, so none of us really know when it comes to quarterbacks. I respectfully disagree. But when you're as arrogant and as wrong as Kiper has been, then it's a bad look. And I generally liked Kiper in the past. I just thought you've got to be able to – you can't throw stones when your track record has been as shaky picking these guys, projecting these guys as his has been.
That's well said by you, and I agree with almost all of that. Now, last year, I hyped up Jaden Daniels as my favorite quarterback in the draft, said he's definitely better than Caleb Williams, and the Bears were making a mistake. Now, I've been wrong on some quarterbacks in the past, too. But I did not like Jamarcus Russell. I didn't like Jimmy Clausen, and those were two of Mel Kiper's favorite quarterbacks. So Kiper's a little bit too full of himself. I think that's what bothers a lot of people. But then again, ESPN likes those carnival barkers like Screamin' A and Mel Kiper because they draw attention. So anyway, aside from all of that, a lot of the media people who try to act like they have it right are sometimes the ones who are the most wrong. And Colin Cowherd's one of those guys. If you listen to Colin Cowherd's takes on the NFL, this guy's constantly off target with his takes. I don't think anything he said might be worse than what he said about the Shedeur Sanders situation. This goes back to, I think, last fall when, can we go ahead and throw up the graphic here on Colin Cowherd? The trade, he said, so there was a lot of talk about where Shedeur Sanders would go. And I remember a lot of media types, what do we have? Okay, it was supposed to be a graphic, but we can do the video too. That's fine. It was I would say, a couple months ago, there were some media types talking about maybe Shedeur is going to fall to the Raiders at 6. They're hoping so, but he's probably not going to fall that far. Well, it turns out Tom Brady and the Raiders didn't have any interest in Shedeur Sanders either. And the more information that comes out about his interviews with teams, he was unprepared, he was unprofessional, he acted like a clown, and that's why so many teams took him off the board. This guy is not a leader of a football team. He's a cartoon character. He's a clown. That's what Shedeur Sanders acted like. And that's the main reason he slipped so far in the draft. Colin Cowherd once proposed a trade. And I'll go ahead and roll tape here on this from January 16th on what Colin Cowherd said teams should do, the type of deals should be made for Shedeur Sanders.
But the Steelers have been, putting Band-Aids on for 6 years. I think they have to rip it off. I would trade T.J. Watt, George Pickens, 2 first-round picks if your scouting department said Shedeur Sanders is the guy. Because I think Cam Ward's going to go number 1. I think Shedeur Sanders you could get at number 5, 6, or 7.
That's one of the reasons I don't listen to sports talk radio, nonsense like that, Will. So Colin Cowherd proposes you trade T.J. Watt as one of the top 5 defensive players in the league, George Pickens, and 2 first-round picks for Shedeur Sanders. Is that one of the, aside from the Deshaun Watson deal, would that be the worst trade in NFL history?
Yeah, I guess he can couch it by saying, hey, I said if the scouting department gives you the go-ahead, because he did I agree with the first part. The Steelers have been trying to put a Band-Aid on this. So that I agree. You're nothing without a quarterback. You're in the AFC with all these great quarterbacks. That being said, a little bit off on the compensation, I would agree.
All right, so Mina Kimes of ESPN, who's someone I really like. I think she's a smart analyst. She had a take on the Steelers and what they should do or should have done in the draft with the quarterbacks if we can roll the Mina Kimes tape.
What do you think of how the Steelers approached the draft, only taking Will Howard in the 6th round?
I would have taken a quarterback earlier, just to be blunt. I don't begrudge them skipping on quarterback in the 1st round. I actually love the Derek Harmon pick, player I really liked at a position of need for them. But after that, they had a couple of opportunities, I think, to take a swing on one. Jalen Milroe in the 3rd round, they took a running back, Caleb Johnson. And then in the 4th, instead of taking Sanders, they took Jack Sawyer, who gives them edge depth. But the way I see it, Laura, if you're a team without a long-term answer at quarterback, and I think we can agree even if the Steelers add Aaron Rodgers, they still don't have a long-term answer, you got to take some swings. People say, well, they can go for it next year. Well, frankly, we're talking about a team that never picks in the top 10 because they don't lose that many games, and they're also in a division that just loaded up on draft picks for next year. So I don't see that as a plan. I don't see Aaron Rodgers as a long-term plan, and I just wish they had been a little bit more aggressive at the position.
All right, that's Mina Kimes of ESPN. I like Mina. I think she's a very sharp football analyst. I disagree with her a little bit there, Will. I do like the Will Howard pick. The Steelers took the Ohio State quarterback in the 6th round. I like Will Howard as a developmental quarterback. The thing about taking swings, outside of Cam Ward and Jackson Dart, which quarterbacks do you really like in this draft? I mean, are the Steelers supposed to take a swing at a Kenny Pickett type of project?
Yeah, just because you need a quarterback doesn't mean you can get a quarterback. I mean, it's a very hard thing to get in football, and there's a lot of luck involved. I mean, look at Purdy, look at a lot of Dak Prescott and Brady, and it's hard. It's an inexact science. I understand that you need one, but just because you draft one doesn't mean you've solved that need. And look, you can say, all right, take Jalen Milroe in the 2nd or 3rd round. What is that pick doing for you? You're winning the Super Bowl with Jalen Milroe? I don't think so.
No, Milroe and the Seahawks got praised for taking him in the 3rd round, but we don't know if Milroe's going to develop into a quarterback who's worth much in the NFL. He's a freak athlete. He's a runner, and he's got some potential. We'll talk a little bit more about NFL quarterbacks later. Trying to track the end of this Bucs-Pacers game. 118-117. Bucs got the lead. Pacers got the ball. Bucs trying to blow it one more time. If you want to be smarter and not louder, check out the Sharp Plays at sharpplays.com, where real bettors go to get ahead. Why follow the crowd when you can lead it? Visit sharpplays.com. Respected, watched, and feared. That's the Sharp Plays.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.